The Let Me Be Frank podcast is on the lookout for new commercial partners. If you want to sponsor us and help us out, please get in touch. You can get in touch with us at lmbfpodcast@outlook.com. We're thrilled with how things are going so far. We're over a year old. Our engagements across the board and all the platforms run into the millions every month. Thousands of new subscribers. We're delighted with the comments and the feedback we're getting. And if you're a business and you want to get on board, please get in touch and you can promote your business as part of the podcast as one of our commercial partners. It would be great to have you with Frank and myself. So we look forward to hearing from you. If you want to get involved, please do.
Hey, that's you. You're talking about that one.
Hey,
the one with the numbers.
Do you need the sign on there?
Yeah.
That's me. That's the wide angle. That's for everybody.
No, that's mine. That's the wide one there.
Wide angle's over there.
That's chicks.
How many episodes are we
Oh,
on?
fuck. It's only a year.
9 and 100?
A year.
I'm winding you up. It's the one with the
Aye,
numbers.
of course he is.
Have a good one.
I'm back with another episode of the Let Me Be Frank podcast with myself, Simon Houston, Frank McAvennie.
Hiya.
You doing?
I'm good. Very good.
Doing bronze. You been golfing by any chance?
I've been golfing, yes. I was in Glen Eagles. What a beautiful day it was.
You don't get a chance to golf much these days, do
No,
you?
I'm just cutting it down to 2 a week.
Aye.
Yeah.
2 a day.
I've got a good one. I've got Glen Eagles yesterday, Turnberry Friday, Troon next week.
Aye.
Troon.
Yeah. Oh,
Only the best.
as long as you're coping.
And I'm coping.
As long as you're coping.
Coping, I'll be kidding on. I was at the Ryder Cup, bit of putts and all that. But yeah.
We're going to introduce the guest, and it is Scottish broadcasting royalty, absolute star. But before we do, it's a wee reminder, we've got a couple of live shows coming up, so it's an opportunity for you to come along and speak to Frank in person if you want his autograph or if you want to knock him out, one of the two. For 20th of October in Bellshill. And it's a ballroom in Bellshill.
Ballroom.
Big John Hartson for the Celtic supporters who follow us. And that's going to be really good because the big man
There's
is
a couple of tickets left for that one, so
I sell
that's
them well.
good.
Sell them
And following week, another big bad John Brown.
John Brown.
Good
So
pal.
we know, and you know, there's always messages from folks, another Rangers player or another Celtic player. It's a football podcast first and foremost. Isn't it? Obviously, Frank played for Celtic, so there's going to be a lot of Celtic guests.
It's good. We already Rangers, but Rangers boys have been great. There's a few of them come on, so
Bomber Brown,
Superb.
27th of October in the ballroom.
Yes.
Tickets are on sale now as well, and there you go. We'll put the advert on the screen
Yes.
in a moment.
good.
So we're joined by Chick Young.
Charles, how are you?
Why did you not mention that Frank McAvennie also played for St Mirren? More important.
Very good.
Chelsea.
See, immediately you're
People
just
keep forgetting that.
yeah,
I know.
swallowed in the whole old firm world as usual.
You know.
It's-
Well,
there's life
to be
beyond.
fair, Charles, I've got a lot of people have mentioned saying thanks for never forgetting us, because I always mention.
Tell
some-
you what,
I
funny
always
enough-
mention.
Except there.
One
No,
of the-
I always because it's so. I played for 3 clubs twice. Or 2.
Oh, I know.
So and that's the
Aye.
serum.
You played for a couple of clubs for minutes.
yeah.
Partick Thistle and
Hong Kong. I was in Hong Kong.
South
but-
China United.
It was South China, then the middle of Hong Kong, but it was it's the problem was they don't accept they don't blame drink on a bad performance, which wasn't a good thing for me, Chick.
In fact, they helped you to make it a good performance.
That was great.
Well, the reason
remember it, but-
the reason we didn't mention St Mirren there because there's a show with John Hartson and a show with John Brown.
Yes.
But you know what? We should do one in Paisley with Tony Fitzpatrick.
Of course, it'd be great.
Chick Young.
Yes, that'd be good.
The episode we did with Tony Fitzpatrick actually was one of the best.
Brilliant.
It was
So
tremendous,
good.
so
Yeah.
nice. It was great, and he
Tony's
was
brilliant.
Oh, he's an outstanding human being.
Yes.
Player.
Oh, he's great with me.
And I love that.
Taxi driver as well, picked me up in the
well,
morning.
there you
He used to pick me up.
All his achievements. Mac is cabbie.
He's my minder in the pitch as well. Him and Aber. Minder, yeah.
Outstanding man.
I know.
Outstanding man.
Brilliant.
So you look as though you're working harder than ever when you should probably be slowing
Yeah,
down.
you're retired. That's him retired.
I don't know if I look as if I'm working. I continue to, because you never know when people forget you and it's all
No,
over.
they're not
So
gonna
you
forget you.
keep.
They're not going to forget you,
I'm
Chick.
sure the referee's looking at his watch somewhere from me, Frank. But you just keep going, and while you're in demand, don't give it up, because it'll give you up first. That's for sure, you know. And I've managed to swim with the tide and against it sometimes. And if you're wanted, you're wanted. I still do. I do my own podcast, so I might as well plug that. Forget the ball, go with the game with Jonathan Watson.
Absolutely. If you, in fact, if you are watching, if you don't know about that, give it a follow and subscribe to it too. It's excellent.
It is.
That's good. That's good.
Despite my
Even
presence.
if he does say so himself.
And then, you're still getting a shift from the BBC on a Saturday for opening mics, usually in Sports Sound. Quite enjoy that. I've kind of enforced a Glasgow and District League. My days of driving through Easter Road or up to Dingwall or Aberdeen.
Just too good for you.
Unless coincidentally you've got a dinner there that night or something.
It might be handy.
Me and Mike may be performing, but that apart, I enjoy going to championship games. Still love the game. If I wasn't doing that on a Saturday, I'd be going to a game anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, fine. That's good.
The open all mics thing. I mean, that's been around for a while. Remember, so about 10 years.
I used to listen to BBC, but I'm fed up. I mean, I don't mind saying it. I don't know the guy, but I can't be bothered listening to Tom English. He's the most overrated player I've never even heard. He never played football, but he knows everything about everything. And sometimes you've got to say, well, I don't know about that. But he doesn't. He knows everything. Everything.
Controversial, Francis.
It switches me off, but it really does.
Well, we have, I suppose.
But are you one of these ex-players that say you can't comment in the game because you never played it?
You know, sometimes I'm thinking maybe he's just doing that to wind up Mickey Stewart or something like that, because that's what they have an argument, and that's good when they argue.
Well,
apart from that, you know, you're there to listen for the football.
But I'm sure some of the greatest sports writers in the world never played the game.
But
without a doubt, Hugh McAvennie to name but one.
I know.
Exactly, aye.
Yeah, I know. Listen, I've never met the guy. I don't know the guy, but it just puts me off.
I've got a problem with ex-players who suddenly come into... I trained as a journalist. I went through... I learned from masters of my trade, people who were... And then people stop playing football and think can jump into what their idea of journalism is, when it's not actually journalism at all. But they think the art of broadcasting or writing is easy. I will just do that. And I would never, much as I would love to have been as successful as you as a football player, I had everything about me to do that except ability, so I didn't quite make it. So, but it's all right for football players to jump in. And the broadcasting is awash now with ex-players who think that the broadcasting and journalism owes them
just name names.
Well, there's some good ones.
Just a journalist left in the business.
There are some, I suppose there's some better.
I can't write. Ex-footballers I played with can't write, so none of them are doing it.
I quite like Big Stevie Thompson. You know,
yeah, but wait a minute. I'm talking about on the various levels here. But one of my pet hates is ex-players or alleged verted commas columnists who don't even write it. Who have a ghostwriter.
Who would have thought?
Who would have a ghostwriter? And I've done it for many players over the years. But I used to buy papers because people like Hugh McAvennie primarily, Ian Woolridge, people, I would follow them to the papers they were writing for and buy that particular publication. But now we've got, and the tabloids, the Daily Record, the Sun, they're going to take on board, let's say, for the sake of argument, Chris Sutton, Barry Ferguson, who are not going to be observe and be thoughtful and write a composition about the state of the Scottish game. It's going to be Rangers Celtic, Celtic Rangers. What else are you going to get?
Yeah. I suppose the counterpoint to that, though, very quickly before we talk about your column, which I want to talk about.
But my column is... Go on.
I'm just Ben Frank's column, but carry on.
Pat Nevin might be an example of somebody who insisted in getting on the keyboard and writing.
Yes, he does.
Himself.
Yes, he does.
No. We took on when I worked for the Scottish Sun, and it was a case. Let's get Frank McAvennie as a columnist. Now we discussed it, and you said, "Well, I'm
not going to write.
I have opinions, I have views, and I know what I want to say, but I'm not going to sit at a keyboard and write it." We had a way, but I knew you so well. We agreed
that what we're talking about is just going to be the hot topic that week. But it's not just about me. I'm not going to tell you how. I'm not going to tell anybody how to play football.
The art of ghostwriting. And I've done a bit of that as well for our wee pal Mo Johnson in particular.
Morris.
Or did you call him?
Yeah, Judas. Judas.
So you there's that. So I always wondered when Hugh McAvennie ghostwrote Alec Ferguson's book. So the art of Hugh McAvennie, who's the finest sports writer I've ever known, he wouldn't write that a la McAvennie. He would have to write it as if Alex Ferguson was writing it.
Yeah.
And that's what he kind of did. There was a mix in between. And I mean, Alex Ferguson is an intelligent guy, but McAvennie's not. So there's an art.
Yeah.
So I think if you wrote
For three or 4 years.
I remember reading Frank's column, and it was a la Maca. I mean, it was a touch of...
It was a touch of everything.
Every now and again, I'll get a text of one of my mates saying there's no way Frank used the word anti-disabilitarianism.
I know, but it was good because I liked it because it was in 7 years. It was the only column that went to the lawyers every week.
Anti-disestablishmentarianism would have filled the whole column for you, actually.
Yeah, so it wasn't just about Celtic and Rangers. We spoke about anything.
No, it did, but the problem was that you come on sometimes. I'll set aside a day and say, right, we'll have the phone call, then I'll write it. And Sunday papers being Sunday papers, and in the kind of modern world, is you had to have it written by a Tuesday or something like that because they wanted the page away and all that, you know. But you would come on and say, right, I want to talk about politics or something, and I was always like,
Nicky,
let's just be careful. Let's be careful. You had views on that I thought, I don't know if you... I mean, and by the way, being a columnist, you should be outspoken, you should be opinionated, but sometimes you had to protect yourself from yourself a wee bit.
Nobody's done it yet.
I'm talking about... No, I'm not going to describe how you described Theresa May once, and I thought, I can't put it on the paper.
The most unpumpable,
most unpumpable blonde you'd ever encountered.
That was about right.
But you're in the process of writing a book at the moment, Chick. Aye.
The aforementioned art of ghostwriting for Graeme Souness, but it's just about his time at. It's just about his time at Rangers from the moment he got the phone call in 1986, the 5 years till he left. So, and it's intriguing. I was working these particular years, well, most of them actually. I'd left back in '88, but when he came, and I was pally with him in the first place with Scotland days and all that, and then he got the job at Rangers, and it was absolutely brilliant with me. I was working in the Glasgow Evening Times, I think it's the Glasgow Times now, and it was, I mean, these were the days when newspapers sold plenty. We were selling 5 times what the Daily Record does now, and it's allegedly a national paper. Yeah. So they were powerful days, and he was at that time. He would every story that came out of Rangers was via me because I was his pal, and it was brilliant for me, Simon. And my name, every exclusive out of Rangers, my name was on it. It took my career through the roof, and
it's also a bit that demonstrates trust as well, though, because he knows we'll give this to Chick, he'll do it properly.
Yeah. And it was leaked, and so the relationship kept on, and he got approached by publishers to write just about his time. Graeme Souness, My Rangers, and I'm the strap line. I'm calling it. If I can just say something here. So we're battering through it. It'll be published late spring, early summer next year, if I can get my finger out.
So the logistics of that, you're obviously spending hours on the phone over the period of time,
and he's come down to his palatial abode in the south coast of England to drink his good wines and.
Brilliant. He does like a good wine.
Oh, he does. So he does. Yeah. You know, Graeme, with this debate the other day about, we're writing a chapter or two about Walter, obviously, and what a great man he was, but there was having lunch with Walter was an experience because the fun, the enjoyment was there, and he was just like an overgrown schoolboy at times, and Graeme's like that. The difference was, going to Walter, you could have a right good booze. Graeme's a two-can Dan. He likes a good glass of wine. He says, I can drink. I said, no, you can't. You can't. And of course, then he argues it's not about drinking, but it's not about his approach to life. Phoned him. On the phone the other day, Frank. I said, right. He said, I'm right. That's me. I'm going to my bed. He says, it's 8:30, 8:45 at night. Yes, he says, I'm up. The alarm's set for 5 because I'm going swimming in the morning this is in the sea.
Well, he does the
Was that-
wild swimming, doesn't he? Open water. aye.
We swam the channel.
That's
didn't
right.
I know he
For the
did.
chart for the
He's done
wee
that.
He's
girl.
now
aye.
going to do it 2 ways.
Fantastic.
So he's up, and I said, you and I are cut from different cloth.
Oh, aye.
I mean, is it
Yeah,
incredible?
And this is a
I'd
man
date-
who
I'd
had a
date-
replacement heart valve.
I'd date in a
God,
boat.
how many years
That's
ago?
what I'd be me.
I'd skip on the boat from him.
I'd go.
No problem. I'm a boaty
I'd
person,
guide you.
you know.
You've been the jet ski.
I mean, I didn't, because I shared the room with Graeme, but I didn't know about, obviously he told me about the Rangers.
Sorry, that is my head. Just,
I know.
I must get that in the book.
Well, you shared the
But
room.
I can't do it because it was a time at Rangers, which you refused to accept.
What?
He wanted you to come here.
I know.
He wanted the more role for you.
I know.
Why didn't you do it?
Because my
you're a
dad,
shite bag.
my dad went to the games with
This is
priests
good.
and all that.
Right, so this
My
is
dad went to
interesting.
the game
Before
with priests and to be fair, Graeme,
Oh,
you know
and
his
we-
sense of humour.
and more
Do you know what his sense of humour is like? He says, as long as you take your collars off.
So before Frank's going to talk about that, this is interesting. A journalist take on this, a sports journalist take on this, because we had Bill McMurdo sitting in that very
Yes.
seat a couple of weeks ago, giving his take on.
What happened?
Because asking the question, would Frank have gone to Rangers? And I can't remember. Bill's answer was a bit kind of, it's a soft soap.
He said I'd have handled it better than more.
He says you would. He says I don't know. He might handle. I think the point he was maybe making as well though was the fact that you hadn't already played for Celtic at that point.
Yeah,
Wh-
that would have
and
been
it may
easier.
have made it
It'd have been
easier
easier.
because it was a Catholic going to play for Rangers, not against Celtic.
Yeah, but you hadn't played for Celtic.
No, not
No,
that time,
not in
that
Mexico.
time.
'Cause
No, not Mexico.
I think the story Frank's
going
going
to.
to.
But Mo didn't go till 88.
It was
They
86.
shared the room in
it was-
86.
86. He knew that's when he bought, and he wanted me to be the first one.
And then
He said, to be fair, he said it had to be me, Charlie, Nick, or Mo.
The first
says,
first
'cause
two that they
see,
officially approached. Oh, I can't tell you that's in the book.
No,
It's
sorry.
about-
But yeah, well, the bottom line, the bottom line is I was wanting to ask is, did Walter know that he was going to
Yes.
go as assistant at that time?
Yes.
Ah, that's all right. Because I remember we were sitting there, we're sitting in Santa Fe and we're lying in the grass. Now, this
Santa
is my first trip to World Cup. Not been a World Cup before, I'm loving it. And then Andy Roxburgh comes out and we're all lying in the grass and I'm lying with Graeme and
You were
Andy-
lying in the grass, I suppose.
we're lying watching, he's going, this is what we're going to do, right? And
Roxburgh's giving you the tactics for
tactics. No, he's giving us what we're training, and he's kicking the ball up in the air. And he's just kicking the ball up in the air, and he's sweeping it to the side. He says, and then you kick it up, and then you sweep it to the other side. And I know I'm going, the fuck's he doing? And all I heard was, I'm not doing that. And it was Graeme. And he says, why not? He says, I learned how to do that when I was 9. I was like, go on, Graeme. So we went into a game, just play the game.
so much to talk about because obviously you went over and covered Mexico for the Evening Times. Would that be?
It was, yes.
And you've spoken before about getting the fantastic exclusive from Graeme Souness on the flight back. I think it may have been.
Going out.
Was it flight going out? Was it?
Yeah.
So at that point I'm trying to get the chronological order of events right here. He was going out to play as a Scotland midfielder, obviously.
Yeah.
Did the world know at that point?
Yeah,
he was going
he
to.
had the press conference.
I didn't know anything about it.
Yes, you did. But Frank, even you must have read the paper.
No, because he approached you in the hotel room in Mexico to say, would you come at Rangers? So he must have.
The story was leaked in March that he was going to become, he was still at Sampdoria. To rewind, if you recall, there was a television interview which, off the top of his head, he said, somebody said to him, do you think you'd be a manager one day? And Graeme said, I wouldn't mind being the manager of Glasgow Rangers. He said, the man who turns around Rangers, because remember they were in the doldrums at that time.
Aye.
In the same
It's
state at the
made
moment.
for life. Big Jock Wallace had come back. I mean, the whole thing, just to rewind that, Simon, when I was, the Times, Evening Times was Evening Times, and we had a great team, the big Alan Davison, God rest him, the Prince of Darkness, and we John Quinn and Graham Clark, who was really thick with Jock Wallace. And we had every story in the unfolding of Rangers. We had our exclusive that John Gregg had been sacked, our exclusive that Alex Ferguson had been approached, our exclusive that Alex Ferguson had been refused the job, our exclusive that Jim McLean was offered the job, our refusal that Jim McLean got back the job, and then our exclusive that Jock Wallace was taking the job. And these great days, George McKechnie was the editor, said, I remember to the sports editor, Crawford Banking, there'll be no final edition for you guys today. Crawford, take the boys out and don't come back. And there's send me the bill.
Fantastic.
And I mean, that was man management in the happy glorious days in newspapers.
And exactly that. And
that
that
been
now.
back since.
no.
I know, Bill's still going.
What's an interesting subject on at the moment is fan media and fan media journalists getting into press conferences. Now, my own take on it is it maybe wouldn't be necessary if the young football writers at the moment were breaking stories like they did.
Well,
in the halcyon days, at the moment I see a lot of football writers. Obviously, still good friends of mine, that I worked with at the Record and the Sun, are good operators. But digitally, you see a lot of names that maybe just they're not breaking stories. They're not going out in meetings.
It's a different. Have they still got the contacts? Like
Well, that's what I was going on to. Contacts.
I'm sitting here because Mac and I go back a long way, and I was pally with then players, and I was younger.
Yeah.
Let's rewind the whole evolution of this, Simon. We go back to, let's say, the 70s when I was growing up with Kenny Dalglish, Danny McGrain, we all at McDonald at Rangers, and we were all going out. We're all in the
same clubs,
the same. So it was exactly we're chasing the same women and drinking the same pubs, and the wage difference. Rangers and Celtic boys, I wasn't earning much less than they were, and you could socialise and you develop relationships. And as these guys got older and become managers, and I got older, they know they can trust me. We've evolved over the years, so you've had a chance to get close to Kenny Dalglish, the superstars of the day. And life moves on. Now, let's go back a few years. The boy for the Manchester Evening News can hardly go out for a drink with Wayne Rooney, who's earning,
I know.
God only knows what percentage more wages. And then what happens is you get media departments who get themselves in between journalists and the managers and players, and there's no direct access. And then they allow access to fan media.
Yeah.
So it becomes more and more difficult for journalists, particularly newspaper journalists, because Sky and the BBC will get in because they're paying for stuff.
Yeah.
But it's a totally different. I mean, you see Kelly Cates now presenting and brilliant. She's great. Kenny's daughter. Kenny, when he went down to Liverpool, he would say to me, I used to come down and do a piece with you for the Evening Times. And then Kenny would say, is there any money? I said, because Kenny liked a couple of there's no money at Kenny, it's the Evening Times, All right. Just come down, stay with me, and just bring some down for the kids. Toys for Kelly. I used to play with Kelly's a wee girl and Paul, and just bring a couple of toys down and stay in his house after he'd made the point. Kenny's like, he'd made the point.
Aye,
But the money, you're not getting any. I'll just come anyway. And
Well, fair play to them though for stuff, because a lot of people would have said,
he knew there was people he was getting who would pay him. But
I remember Kelly being born, giving away my age.
Aye.
and she's
She's very good at what she does.
Brilliant.
She's very
People
good.
complain. Some people, Frank, complain about women.
No, we see the problem with other people is Kelly doesn't tell you how to play football.
Correct. Yes, I know.
And she could possibly tell more people a lot more, but she doesn't because
she's exactly
with Kenny,
broadcast.
but she's great at what she does.
Agreed.
And I've got no problem with it. I think there's a lot of girls out there that do the same. Bianca Westwood and that, they don't talk about tell you how to play football. They just tell you what's and they hopefully let other people talk. I think that's what you should do.
She was asked to choose the music on for Sports Sound. I don't know if this has been broadcast yet or not. Maybe went and telling tales out of school, but so what? So she said she chose her 3 favourite songs. She said there's one I should play, but I shouldn't really tell you about it. And right away I said, I know what this is.
Angels?
It was Kenny, her dad, and would you believe Sandy Jarton sang a song together called Each Saturday. Now they had this is 1975. They had an agent. They shared an agent, Tony. Tony's name, Tony Meehan, and he brought them together. I think the song was called. The song was called Each Saturday, but I think they marketed him as, believe it or not, they knew for him and it was the worst. I mean, two great guys, two wonderful football players, Kenny Dalglish, Sandy Jordan singing together.
Oh,
it was
I get it.
beyond dreadful.
I know.
And I remember going to the launch. I've still got the single.
Oh my God!
And what happened was, it was horrendous. and I went to a couple of years later. Not much. I went to you remember Simon David Livingston, who used to work,
Yes,
Yes.
of course, in Daily Reckon and presented the golf and Sky, great pal of mine. And he had a dinner party, and me and my wife, and 3 or 4 couples. And he said, just making it a worst record competition. You've got to bring the worst record you've ever heard, and there'll be a bottle of champagne for the winning couple. So I thought, Sandy and Kenny, no danger. I'll get this in the bag, Frankie boy. And I'll go up to Davy's house in Paisley and lovely dinner party. Right, we're having the competition, play it, and my father friends played that. And that's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. I said, hang on, I think you're without coming. Get that on, Davy. He started it, and they all agreed it was murder, right? And I'm about to take the champagne and Davy says, hold my beer. And he put on a country and western song called. It was a story about this guy whose girlfriend had been killed in a car crash some distance away, and the coffin was coming back by train, right? And the chorus was, "There's a little box of pine on the 729, and my baby's coming on back home to me." But it was all upbeat, and I went, oh, put Kenny and Sandy back.
They were the stay of execution.
Oh, yes.
Fantastic.
A little box of pine on the 729.
Oh, it's brilliant. Whenever I think of David Livingston, I think
brilliant.
we had similar career paths, Greenock Telegraph, Daily Record, and then
David was in Evening Times with me.
he went in the Times.
See, when I think about it, I think of Walking Through the Jungle.
Although I was in Albion Street, because you were talking about the circulation of the Evening Times back in the day, and I worked for the Daily Mail in Albion Street for in the mid-90s, and I always remember the circulation figures would go up in the wall, and it was always so impressive. The Evening Times sold a lot more than the Herald, but that stands for reason, because obviously tabloid and so on. But and I remember you talking too about those days about how you would walk out the front door at Albion Street, and it was there was a magnetic draw into Tom's Bar.
Tom's Bar, aye.
Aye, Desi
Best
McEntee
bar,
would just, and you'd be like, you know.
I stayed in
When I
in Albion Street. I had a flat there.
Did you? Originally it was there when it was the evening, and it's in the real pulpit newspapers, and the Citizen, Evening Citizen, and Daily Express. So for those of you who are not from Glasgow, the geography of Albion Street. The beautiful old building, which all the beaver-proof buildings were mirrored the same way in London and Manchester and Glasgow. And the unions were so powerful in these days, newspapers, late 60s, early. When I was starting the Daily Record, they were selling 800,000 copies a day. So the power of the union was such. So what you did, you come out the doors of that end of Albion Street, and you come out, and there was maybe. I doubt if there was 20 feet from the door to the pub door.
Oh no, even that. Well, less than the 20 feet.
But
it
rained in Glasgow. So the unions actually demanded one year that within the building they knocked down a wall, and the building you would kick into the pub
from the pub
without get out in the rain.
Brilliant.
And go down. And it was
a good idea.
It was that much for getting carried.
That was a great idea.
Stories, I mean, I caught the very tail end of it. And I joined the Mail in 94, 95, and I remember one of my first ever shifts in the Daily Mail on a Sunday, and a guy called Stuart McCartney, Bullet.
Bullet just passed away quite recently.
And Bullet was, and also Brian McCartney as well. So Brian was at the record too, and Brian, I'll tell you a wee story about Brian in a second. But Bullet was kind of mentoring me this particular day, and it was a Sunday, and it's at 1 o'clock, and we're in Albion Street, and he says, right, so downstairs pub, and I'm like, I better know, and I'm looking at a guy called Jimmy Grills, who's my news editor. Grillsy, and I'm looking at Grillsy, and Grillsy's looking at me, and he's looking at Bullet, and he's like, just bring him back. Just bring him back in one piece, and went down, and I had my first pint in a working day in the press bar, and thinking, this is amazing. But so I caught the kind of tail end of it. But Brian McCartney, his famous story was news editor and the night editor phoning him once, and he answered the whatever. I know it was a mobile phone, so it must have been fairly recently. So that sounds like glasses in the background. He says, yeah, that's because I'm in a pub.
The bullet. I tell you, the great bullet, Stuart McCartney. I remember there was a thing called the Publicity Club. I lived at Frank. It was on a Friday, no expense. When everybody had money, tenants used to always take me, and there was. I used to meet Bill Nolan, the tenants, a pal of mine, in advance to decide. We had a right good lunch, deciding who was getting invited to the lunch, and no expense paid. And we used to meet. So it was in the Albany Hotel. God rest the Albany. I loved it. And it was Friday at 1 o'clock. We used to start at 10 o'clock. We used to get a suite for champagne, Bucks Fizz, to start the day off. Imagine. Anyway, eventually this scenes of shame. There was always showbiz's element in Scotland wanted to be there to just because that was a thing they did, and it was because of advertising. It was an advertising thing, really. But the advertising businesses who ran it. Anyway, Fran and Anna. Do you remember Fran and Anna?
You remember Fran?
I remember.
It's actually just with that cup sitting over it says, "Let me be Fran." So Fran and Anna got up to went up the stage, and the bullet, who was full of the joys of life, including champagne and brandy.
Yes.
I saw him get up from his seat, just two up from me, and I went, "Bullet, no." And it was floating. I could see him waving through the crowd, all the way through. Fran and Anna were coming to the end of their act. And he got up, the side of the stage, go up. I'm going, no, he's on stage. And he grabbed, I don't know which one was Fran and which one was Anna. They were both equally delectable. And the bullet grabbed Fran or Anna. And I mean, grabbed it and snogged her on stage. And I mean, oh, jeez. And it was the most disgusting scene that I have ever seen in my life. And I swore I would never drink again.
His career finished when he was working for the Daily. No, he went on to work for the Daily Star, and when he retired, he was replaced by a
I know many Daily Stars. Yeah, a few girls for there.
Yeah, he probably did. Kevin Ayres. Kevin was a good pal of mine, whose son was Gordon Ayres, who was the chief reporter of the Record.
I know
and because Kevin was replacing Bullet, his nickname was Pellet.
That's good.
Brilliant.
He's out of jail, you know. Look, half an hour already. I knew this would happen. There's so many things to talk about. We'll have to condense the second half of it. But obviously,
there's the Gargate stories. Well, he was towards the end of the Express, the glory days. He was getting sent to Brazil to interview Ronald Biggs.
All right.
Who had fled and needed to see him. And this was costing a fortune back in the day. And off he went. And he was going to be in New York. And he got to New York, and the Express decided to pull the plug in the whole trip because it was costing a fortune. So he gets to New York, and they know he's wondering. Says no mobile phones or any of that these days, of course. With Mr. Stuart McCartney travelling to Buenos Aires from New York, please report. And Bullet said, "That'll be right." He just got on the flight and said he never heard it.
Ronnie Biggs.
Superb.
He was a guy. He was not a Scottish guy who was going to perform a citizen's arrest in Ronnie Biggs.
SS guy or something. Was it not?
If you're watching, you know. And by the way, I should be telling you all, reminder, please subscribe. Hit subscribe. It's on the screen. Free to do it. Follow us, Instagram, TikTok, and also forget the ball.
And while you're at it, forget the ball going over the game.
Forget the ball. That's the one.
We need to talk about you guys have something in common as well, and you're both parodied by Jonathan Watson and all the excuse.
Yes.
Which I want to talk about. But I want to also talk about, so you a great fondness for Walter Smith, good friend of yours.
Yeah.
That wee clip, which everyone has watched 10 million times. I heard you talking about it recently in an interview, and I thought the way you explained the build up to and the subsequent, how you had the tape and all that was really good. And people need to know more about that.
Well, the thing about it, people think, you and Walter are taking take the piss out of me, and in these days it was tapes. And I realised that I'm happy to tell you the story how it came to pass, but the point was I could have buried the tape and they would have gone forever. It was me who thought it was hysterical and kept it. So the brief story, it's hard to keep it brief, but basically it was the day after they lost to AEK Athens, 93 was that? And Walter and I are great buddies. We go for lunch together and all that, but he could be a grumpy bastard at times. So I knew he wouldn't be in a good mood. He wasn't going to do the interviews, and I said, I'm at the BBC by this time. I'll get him to speak. And I got away with murder and registration. I used to be able to walk into dressing rooms, managers' offices, stadium. Nobody ever. I was a cheeky wee bastard, really, but I got away with it.
Yeah.
And Walter, I went over to Ibrox and I went to see Laura, his secretary, and Laura said, he's not doing interviews. I said, I know, and we were told, but and she said, all the time. So she said, I knew she phoned him, and Walter said, tell me fuck off. And Laura said, apparently I didn't know this till later. Laura says, you know what he's like, he'll not go away, he'll stay here all day. So he will. Tell me to set up in the tunnel then. I know he'll not go away. So me and a guy called Billy threw a camera, and sadly Billy's no longer with us, in the tunnel. Set. He's doing the interview. It's all good. I know he's swearing every 10 seconds, and I know he knows that if he swears, we can't use it.
Aye.
Whereas now they probably would.
They would use it,
but then you didn't. And then I asked the thing about, well, some of your players are not good enough. And the Basil Ball. And there's a bit in it where I said, what do you mean? They said, Basil Ball, he's a European Cup winner. And I'd said something about, well, Tommy Gemmell won a European Cup, but he wouldn't have much use to you now, that was the moment. That was my tactical blunder, Frank, So, and he goes, so that was the bit where it's now made all the Archie, have you heard his fucking questions? Tell me to stick his microphone up his fucking. And the thing about it was, because for some reason, which you shouldn't do, Billy was shooting down the tunnel into the light.
That's right. Silhouettes.
So Archie was beautifully framed. The time coming through. Normally, you would shoot the light over the camera.
I've often wondered who he was with. It looked like Stuart McCall, possibly.
No, who I was with.
No, Archie Knox. He was a player.
Was there?
There was a player with him.
I can't remember. So, but Billy, and you see, if you watch it again, the camera shakes.
That's right.
And it's because Billy's holding the camera, pissing himself, and that's when Walter says, "No wonder you're laughing, Billy." Anyway, point was I get back, and I'd eventually got enough to get 30 seconds for reporting Scotland, which I used. And that was the point at which there was a huge, in these days, big bin came round to the desks, and you had to recycle the tapes. And I said, I'm keeping that one.
Keeping that, the Christmas party.
Kept it, they did a Christmas film at the BBC, which was just in-house, into which more production time and effort and talent went than any programme that ever came out of the building. And I said, I've got this, me and Walter. So they went out the Christmas video for the BBC. Then somebody leaked it out the building, which had never happened. It was going round on VHS tapes round the pubs. I got a phone call from the News of the World. There's this thing, you and Walter Smith, and it's been shown all the pubs. So I explained the story as I just explained it to you. They ran that, which was fine. And then, that must have been the spring of 94. 10 years later, I'm in, and I get the call, I remember, it was Marseille. And bizarrely, 10 years later, I was in Marseille again. I get the call from the News of the World. There's this thing on YouTube, blah, 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 you and Wall. I said, stop. First question I said to them, what the fuck is YouTube? So the boy explained to me. So I explained again to him what had happened to VHS. It was now YouTube. And so I thought, I better phone Walter, and I said, this thing's now on YouTube. Walter's first question, what the fuck is YouTube? So I explained to him, and Walter says to me, there must be money in this. We can maybe, how many hits? It had 1 million hits. Yeah. I said, if we didn't understand, I didn't understand what a hit was. I says, but if it's £1 a hit, we got £1 million. He says we could give it to charity. I said, you can do what you want with your half.
But you know what?
So let me finish. So anyway, that was it. We moved on. I think it's at something like 52 million views.
Did you not get any money?
They never get one brass farthing, Frank. And the thing was, somebody's making the money, and it's actually the BBC's money.
You should have.
So at the end,
you can get it.
Well,
a year before Walter died, with him, maybe a couple of years, I was with him, and he went for lunch, and he says to me, "I wish I'd never done that." I said, "Why?" he says the granddaughter, his wee-granddaughter had learned how to, obviously kids with computers and all that, and had discovered it. And she said to him, "Grandad, I've seen this video. Why are you swearing at that nice man?" And I went, "That's
So, funnily enough, someone will be making money of it because although the way YouTube works, if someone sets up their own YouTube account and puts that video on, and then it gets so many hits, they will get whatever it is, you know.
because you get...
Can we not put that out today?
But YouTube would work out that isn't their footage. It would work out that's not that. You have to prove it belongs to you, kind of thing.
Well, so strictly speaking, it's the BBC's
It's probably yeah. I mean, if the BBC had been smart back in the day, they would have put.
But we know nobody knew what the hell.
What it was
Well, they
gonna
didn't.
do.
First of all, they didn't know I'd kept the tape.
Sure. Aye. But once it started to get hits on YouTube, somebody should have said, right, actually, right, we own that. We'll monetize it.
Yeah.
But as a journalist watching that clip, and every journalist who's watched that clip probably thinks the same thing. How else could you have asked that question? I've thought about it all the time. You know, I thought the way you asked that question was absolutely fine, but there was probably no way of wording it that he'd have been happy with.
No, but
Because it was
That was
such
a
a
bad
huff.
mood
It was
anyway.
a huff.
Exactly.
Wouldn't have made any
Because you're
difference.
basically saying you spent a lot of money.
It wouldn't have made any difference to Walter. If he's in a bad mood, you
Aye.
ask him whatever. The nicest question ever, and he'd have still come back at you.
Because you spend a
And
lot
as
of
soon
money,
as it's the same-
you get beaten. You have to go spend more money. That
But
was
people.
Aye, as soon as it's the
thought
same,
about it, but
Graham's
it
the
was,
same.
you know, you had to. Although it was my familiarity with managers, and Big Billy McNeil was brilliant with me as well over the years, and you learned your trade early because people like, and I still have to call Mr. Steen, Mr. Waddle at Rangers, Eddie Turnbull at Hibs. I mean, these guys, I was petrified I would have had to phone them. But you learn that, and then you learn your trade.
Yeah.
You learn your trade further to what I was saying earlier. Meanwhile, people want to come in and just be stars overnight.
Yeah.
And, it's like me putting myself into the Scotland number 8 jersey early on.
It's like, but you could ask a question to a manager who knows you, and somebody that doesn't know could ask the same question. It'll be a different answer he gets. It'll be a completely different answer.
But Big Billy, I mean, as I said earlier, in my very early part of my journalism career, I worked in the Paisley Gazette and I did sport, and I had to cover St Mirren games every week.
See, you started writing about me a long time
I
ago.
know. And but I remember being at a game at Parkhead that St Mirren won comfortably, and Big Billy was just, you know, I'm thinking, I don't want to ask him any questions here because he just gave you that death stare, you know. And I remember a couple of folk piped up and he was like, "Who are you?" You know, that way. And but
He was a diamond.
But had a presence. I suppose the word I'm looking for is presence.
Oh, he did.
An aura. He had
An
an
aura,
aura, but he
and
did-
that
but he had that.
made you. And if someone comes into a room and makes people think, I'm going to think twice about asking him a question, that's half the battle.
Because he
isn't it?
looked the part as well. Was that majestic?
He does.
I
Swagger.
felt on a Monday morning every time I was late.
He had a real swagger. Aye, exactly.
Aye.
But so
Taxi driver.
all an excuse. I mean, do you guys ever, you know, you're talking about, you know, getting money off YouTube for the Walter Smith clip? You must have thought over the years, I wish I could have a couple of quid.
Oh, but I was winding. We having a laugh with Johnny, and we should have patented that. There's the birds that would have been. Every time somebody says it, if we get a penny, we'd have been wealthy people.
I thought that was Walter.
I know.
Yeah,
It was just great. It was
I
just,
found my and
what do you call him?
that'd be faster, boys. So I had. But the irony is that, I mean, Johnny and I were all, well, we know actually we became, but I didn't know him when he started doing this. So I had, what happened was, Simon, I had, I left the papers and I was doing Radio Clyde, then the whole television thing started for me. And I couldn't, it was really difficult when people started writing about me, and then that one day I hear on the radio Jonathan impersonating me, except I'm thinking they've got everybody else spot on, him and all the other guys who did it, but with Souness and Dalglish and Dennis. And I thought, oh, that's a caricature of me. And I thought, then I suddenly thought, how am I the only one that can't get you that?
He didn't really do me. He done the wig knot, but it was Tony Roper that started with me.
Was it?
Because Tony started with me, and he done because he'd my voice. He got me down to a T, and it was Johnny done it after Tony says no, I don't want to do him anymore. So it was Tony. It was Tony that started when it was Dennis and all that. It was all the big ones, and it was Tony done it, and then it was Johnny went on and just took it to another.
Yeah, but I can see.
Took it to another level.
But you're a football player, and you were playing for Scotland. You were unbelievably high profile. I'd been working in newspapers.
You were
certainly
well known,
going to.
but that's
But I don't. That was the thing. I couldn't get into my head that anyone would want to. Whether it was good,
every
bad,
party I went to in
personally-
the 80s and 90s, you were there, so it doesn't.
And also, but he latched on to this idea fairly or unfairly that you were a Rangers
Well,
man.
I know what caused that.
Aye.
So I had written a book
Aye.
about, again with Souness, and I wrote it for myself. But the rebirth, in fact, it was called Rebirth of the Blues, Souness's first season, because I was offered a fortune. This was an art of prostitution by me. Someone offered me a lot of money to write a book and get it out quickly. No problem. Of course. But of course, then that suddenly people assume you're a Rangers fan.
Yeah.
And I'm frightened of this. I had stories I tell. I was born and went to school not far from where we're recording this programme. I was born in Govan, but my brother was a big Rangers fan, and my pals. I was brought up in the environment, and I chose not to be, but that was because of my stepdad. But that was where they latched onto the Rangers book, and trying to shake it off now is rather difficult.
But I listen to you most weeks on Radio Scotland, an open all mics thing and all that, and it comes through clearly when the subject St Mirren comes up. There's a genuine affection there.
Of course
You're
there is.
a proper St Mirren
and
fan.
I wasn't a St Mirren fan when I was a kid. I'm not saying for 1 second I was
like me.
I was when I was at private school. He was my hero.
Aye.
It was, and it was only in the 20s, in my 20s, not in the 20s, my 20s. And my dad, and I was able to, my career, and I was able to take my dad. My dad stepdad was a massive St Mirren fan. He went, even the darkest days, he used to go to, when they were the old second division, he was going to Brecon in a supporters bus and all that. He was through and through. And I was able to take him to Love Street.
Sure.
And all that, so but then I thought I started to find an affection for them.
Yeah.
But back to the original point, that probably, only an excuse to thought, right, who can we have that's kind of, perceived to a Rangers man or whatever, and then that starts the kind of storyline and the narrative. But I mean, it's in some ways it's a pity it's no longer on the television.
People used to watch it.
The numbers were huge, but it did start to fade a wee bit.
I know, it started doing football. It was other things. But I used to go to there's other tales, but Hilton at the New Year, he used to go to Bob for the Hogmanay. And people used to go, you were brilliant earlier. And I'm like, it's not me. I know. You just can't, you go, that wasn't me. It's two completely different people.
I know,
they can't get it.
I know. I've done
No, tell me about the one you were doing the advert. You done an advert.
I used to get my car sponsored. Rover MG, funny enough, that went well. They asked me on Radio Clyde, the advert was on Radio Clyde, but the Rover MG and McDonald's Motors asked me to do an advert for the cars, in which I had to pretend to be Jonathan Watson, pretending to be me. Right.
I'm trying to get my head around
there was
that.
a script in which I had to say, "This is me, Chick Young, standing where I am, which is here in the Rover show." So right. So I had to pretend to be Johnny's.
This is brilliant.
Get the script, headphones, microphone. This is me, Chick Young, standing where I am, which is here. And the voice is cut. I said, "What was wrong? That was going to be a one-take wonder." He said, "Do it again." I said, "What was wrong with that?" He said, "Do it again." I said, "What was wrong with it?" He said, "You haven't got the laugh right." I said, "It's my laugh, actually."
I know, that's brilliant.
So that wee bastard Watson was getting more money being me than I was getting.
That's like that old story with David Francie once finishing third in a David Francie sound-alike competition.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Oh dear.
One of the first summarising I ever did was at St Mirren, funny enough, was with David Francie. There, Jack Carroll. Fantastic, man.
Was Jimmy Sanderson around in Clyde when you broke in?
That was his favourite.
I was his sorcerer's apprentice. That was
his catchphrase. Yeah. Were you there, caller?
He's just an absolute lovely man, and Solly, when his nickname was Solly, he took me very much under his wing, and he was awesome.
He was ahead of his time in some respects, so for the phone in and all that, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd imagine there was people involved in getting that Clyde phone in off the ground, other than him, clearly. With Paul Cooney, Richard Park.
Yeah, it was, I think, Richard, and I think it was more Richard than Paul, but I may well be wrong there. It was an American idea.
Yeah.
And there's also the whole eye in the sky thing. Captain George Muir, Frankie know. And George used to live not far from where we are as well, here. And I got in, that's where I studied broadcasting Radio Clyde with that lot. And they used to when I was on the phone in with Jimmy Sanderson, and Richard used to say, just listen to what he says and say the opposite. Was what me and Jimmy actually used to do with people, and then I got, and the fact that when he passed away, he was going to do a series of shows for Whitbread Breweries,
right.
and the wee man sadly passed, and Whitbread came to me, and I got the shows around the country.
Richard Park became a bit of a genius, didn't he? I mean, when he went up, obviously did Clyde, and he had Dr. Dick's Midnight Surgery. Did you ever listen to that?
Aye, but he had used to do the DJ at Cotton Club at Paris on a Wednesday night.
Became a massive media player though down south.
And then his Dr. Dick's Midnight Surgery was saucy.
It was a wee bit.
I used to go in and that with him as well some nights. And for all you ladies at home, I know I'm going to put this, I got a 12-incher for you here. They put on the long extended play version of.
That's right. I forgot about that. But he obviously was man behind Fame Academy and all that.
Aye, he was good. Clever boy.
But he suffered too from this perception because his nickname was Ibrox Park. And whether he was a Rangers fan or not, I've no idea. Don't know.
He was for Kirkcaldy and claimed to be a Wraith Rovers fan, Richard. But Mr. Steen used to rip him. What's your pals at Ibrox saying? He used to, and of course, in these days they just see one flaw, one chink in your armour, and they were in there. That was it.
You did an interview with obviously Peter Martin and PLZ recently, which I listened to, and it was absolutely fascinating. You touched on something, and then Peter didn't get you back on it. The subject of being Paul McStay's agent.
I was Paul McStay's agent. Yes.
I was when
you were a journalist as well.
Times, yeah. So the story was Paul came through all the youth teams. I used to get sent. I was there in Finland in 1982 when Scotland won the European Youth Championship. Paul was, I think, 16 in the under-18 team. Through the ranks, we went to Mexico when Scotland played in the under-19 World Cup. The current Scotland manager, Stevie Clark, scored the only goal when we beat Mexico in front of 108,000 in the Aztec Stadium. Incredible times. And the players, and again, Simon, I'm growing up with these players, so I'm the only journalist they know and trust. It was only used to be me and God rest him, the great Jack Adams from the Daily Rig, and Dick Donnelly, amazing Dick. So we were the three journalists who went with the youth team. So I grew up. So Paul, and I got quite pally with Paul, and I could see what an outstanding football player he was. And I said, it's time you were getting yourself an agent. But agents these days, it was more commercial. It wasn't about going to negotiate.
I'll get you a free pair of boots, son.
Well, so he said, I know. He said, my dad was saying that. I said, well, I think you should. And he said, my dad was going to do it. And John, his old man, I says, Paul, your dad's diamond of human being. I think it was a joiner. I says, maybe he's not equipped in that world. He said, I agree. He says, I get somebody else. I said, well, you should. He said, I was going to ask you. And I said, what? He said, I thought you could do it. And I was going to say, that was stupid. And I thought, hey, all right, I'll have a go at this. Mm-hmm. And so I did. And we got him. First thing I did, he used to be a team squad. It was Puma boots at Celtic at the time, Frank, and he was getting £250 a year for wearing Puma boots. So immediately I said, get yourself out of the team deal, and I got him. I think about 20 grand a year at that time. This is 1983 or something, to wear Adidas. And we took down Adidas, a deal with Adidas. Everything I had for about 4 years had 3 stripes in it. You down to the factory, help yourself, you know. And I got my other retails and that. And then you get more and more. It became quite successful. And then I got him not a contract, I had an offer from Fiorentina.
There was a few teams in from it.
And he, I don't know if he leaves Scotland, you know. And the irony is, the bugger now lives in Australia.
I know.
And he said, I said, look, I can't remember, would that be Christmas 84? His contract was running out at the end of the season. I don't know. And then I said, well, why don't you leave it till into the spring? Fiorentina were happy to wait. He was getting, I can't remember the money at that time, 5 grand a week or something, would it have been that? And phenomenal.
No, Celtic, wasn't it?
No, in Fiorentina.
Oh, Fiorentina.
I think he was getting about
God.
400 quid a week.
Aye.
And a car and an apartment.
Aye.
In Florence. And he, I remember picking up, ironically, the Evening Times, the paper I worked for, McStay signs new deal. I went, what are you doing? And he says, you know this better. He says, Big Billy had me against the wall. You're a Celtic man. You'll be saying you're a Celtic. I said, can you imagine getting away with it? I had him against the wall. You can't believe it. And so he signed it. And that was the end of it.
And then all swings and roundabouts. And then at the end, when they wanted to look after the under 18s and the youth and that, they said no, Celtic, which would have been, Paul would have loved that, I think. And can you imagine Paul McStay going to somebody's house and saying, I want your son to sign for Celtic? It would have been, it's
even just being there.
And they said no.
Paul should have been the player that didn't have to, when his career ended, he never have to work again.
He should never have left. Well, Celtic should have done something.
Yeah, totally. Obviously, and you're right, the irony is that he was a home bird, and obviously Anne-Marie and the kids and all that, and he didn't want to leave Scotland, and now he's in Australia. And he was sitting in that very chair a few weeks ago and seems to be enjoying life. But you're right, though, he should have walked the rest of his life on a red carpet, you know.
Correct. He's a humble, charming,
Australia.
What a player.
I know.
But you do wonder about that. Very good. And by the way, we're going to ask you too. We're nearly in an hour, honestly. There's so many things. We'll get you back on. But the other thing I was going to say.
Money, you know.
Frank's interviewing skills, always, whenever there's somebody sitting in that chair who's a journalist or been a journalist, it's always good to get their take on. Because when we started doing it, you were kind of...
I used to ask a question and then answer it.
You talked a lot. You're talking a lot less now. And all the folk who moan still get comments saying Frank needs to stop talking over people. Don't think you're doing it anymore.
Just you.
You talk over me. That's because I talk shite. And you kind of steer the ship.
I know. Steer it now.
But did you ever imagine Frank McAvennie being an interviewer?
No. Can you imagine me being centre forward for West Ham United in Scotland and Celtic?
Not bad footballer though.
Dukla
Pumferson.
Aye. My first game with Chick. I remember I was playing. Do you play? Was it Johnsonborough? Johnsonborough were playing Dukla, and they wanted me to play half a game for Dukla and half a game for
the Borough.
And it was just Johnsonborough's ground and all that, and then we're there, and John McDonald's playing centre half. We saw. And I says, "What are you doing playing centre half?" He says, "Are you playing for us in the second half?" I says, "Aye." He says, "You'll find it." And I'm going, "What's he talking about?" And I kept making these runs in the centre half, and not one of the players, or the fucking so-called Tanner ball players, when you get a pass, that's their ball, they keep it. You know, you're making runs and they just want to get it. And John's killing himself laughing. That's why I play centre half. I mean, he's the same height as me, John. So I realised very early. I says, right, okay, I stopped making the runs because I wasn't getting it.
So I'm going to guess people like Jerry McCabe, Dougie Bell.
That's the ones. He's Cabey. He does it 5 a sides as well.
He had 3 balls with Cabey when you're
brilliant.
But
good player. Aye.
I tell you who, in fact, his head will be huge if he's watching this. is a very, very good footballer because I played a couple of journalist matches with him. Peter Martin. Peter Martin's a very
well,
good.
talking to people where you need 3 balls in the park.
Oh, my God.
But he was, although, and I don't mind saying this because I'd
good
say it to his
skill, good
face,
skill.
but he was a very skillful, very, very skillful. I saw him score a few lovely free kicks, dinking it in the top corner, but he was a wee bit lippy. It was like if he would maybe nutmeg somebody and say you need to pay to get back in and all that. I never liked that.
He wouldn't pass it either. He would never pass the ball.
But he was a good player. Did Peter play any kind of decent level? He played junior and
They played with us.
Played with us.
I suppose.
Thanks, exercise.
Exercise. He's good at exercise.
Yeah.
But because he doesn't have to run.
Aye. We get Frank, but so I still play fives with my son and his pals and whatever. And
Once.
we got Frank along a few months ago to play, and it was the boys were absolutely in their element just because they were on the same pitch as you. But I think had you an issue with was it your knee or your
Knee, yes.
We had all sorts of issues over the years.
In my head.
He still scored a couple of goals.
Still scored a couple, aye.
Never leaves you, does it?
Never leaves you, son. Never let
The touch doesn't.
No.
No,
You said that you were still playing football in your you 71, 72?
I'm 74.
Right, but did you kick a ball until fairly recently, or have you still?
I managed
70.
to make it into my 70s. Then I got atrial fibrillation, and I tried, which is a heartbeat. It's fine. I keep taking the pills, but it's all right. But
That's what I keep saying.
these are white ones, Frank. I tried walking football, but I cannot be asked to it.
No, that
Because
looks.
you know what walking football is? It's a good idea, but why do they only have 3 touches? So and why? You know, the simple things. You can pass it back to the keeper. Why not pass it back? But he's got 1 touch to play it, keep the game moving. Why can't you run a wee bit? Well, nobody. You're not. The guys are over 70. They're not going to be making devastating killer runs. So like you jog a wee bit.
And if you're still a whippet at that age, then you'll not be playing walking football.
Remember that game we played?
I played.
We did. So the BBC decided, and it was a sports round this summer, to
Promote it.
to promote it, and we would put a team in.
But we couldn't win it. We're just playing
No,
everyone.
but
we were playing everyone.
It was a
Couldn't
knockout.
win it. It was a knockout.
We took a dive. We won the semi-final and said, "Let
I
that
don't know. I
team go
wasn't there at
through."
that time. I was away.
So so it was me and him, Faddy, James
But Alec Bray was there. Alec Bray.
Barry Ferguson.
Barry was there. It was wee Joe Miller.
I mean,
Few of us
versus
good boys.
70-year-olds.
Aye.
So, but there's an act to playing it. You know, Jackie was there, Lee McCall was
Lee
there,
McCall,
and you're thinking, but actually it wasn't because the guys that played it. It's like when you don't play it first, you think you get 3 touches, and you can't run. So your instinct is if the guy's there, you play the ball in front of him. You can't get to it, so you must play. You must play to your feet. And it becomes, anyway, it wasn't as straightforward as you want. But he...
Big Jig played into me, and it's a bit like a guy upended me.
Aye.
I'm going, big man, I says, it's walking football.
Aye.
I says, calm it down. Aye. And he done it again. I said to him again, and he said, told me F off. I said to wee Joe, leave it short, and I just lifted my elbow, but I've caught him, and I didn't mean to, but I've caught him, and he said, I've caught him.
I lifted my elbow and went, lad, I didn't mean it.
I meant to catch him, but I wanted to, just give him a wee warning, but I've caught him straight, and he's just...
You want his throat rather than his nose, I know what you're saying.
And I said to the referees like that, and I says, that's all right, I'm away. I'm away. He's set half at walking football.
One of my mates...
Derek, to be fair, Derek and I was saying, he says, he told them 3 times.
We were doing a radio link, so I was doing the radio, and I think it was Kenny McIntyre in the studio, and saying, how's it going? Can I have a word with some of the boys? Maybe with Macca? And I went, nope. He's not here.
Yeah.
He's not here, he's away. He's away testing the bathwater.
Oh, brilliant. It was one name. But it's one name. They just think they can come do what they want with you,
But that was the trouble with even like Duke thing. Because boys, amateur, they were seeing famous faces, and they wanted to try and make a name for themselves. And you'll never. What I learned, I think I knew, but underlined with me. It's the gap between even a very good amateur player and a bang average professional is still that.
Yeah.
And you'll never do a professional player. You think you're an amateur player.
yeah.
These guys know things that
They keep doing things. They keep doing things, and when you're playing, we always get played. It was Radio Clyde normally put you up for charity, so playing against the Old Firm, and there's mixed, and they go and do it. But we don't run about as much as we do, but we keep the ball. But we know how to keep the ball,
that's right.
and we know it's just one touch, and they want to beat everybody. That's why we
And they
always
want
win.
to try-
That's why we always win.
Show
Can
off.
show off.
So we had a game.
So we just pass it and move, and
Yeah.
it's
we
pretty
John,
easy.
we God rest him, my great pal Jimmy Bone that passed away always ago. Jimmy, we were playing the Viewfield Rovers at Lochwinnoch one day, and there was a big crowd. We had all the names, all the boys were there, and the show business element of Dukla was Jonathan Watson and Tony Roper, and there was a word to describe them. Fucking hopeless. That's 2 words.
2 words.
2 words. Sorry, I apologise. Take out one of them. Anyway, but we Johnny decides to go in this, and this boy from Viewfield. He right through Johnny. It was shocking challenge, and their manager with some dignity came out and took him off. Jimmy Bone went over to the bench and said to him, "Don't take him off, put him back on again."
Aye.
But Jimmy's put him back on, but the boy disappeared in his car.
I can
But,
imagine.
you know, and you go, what the? But you're not going to mess with. I've seen them try to mess with, you know, John Blackley or
No
Brownlee or
chance. No chance.
Danny or, you know,
these boys went through it.
Oh, you've seen it all the time.
They think that. I mean, it's like Coiston. Coiston people go. I keep going like people. Give me his feet. There's somebody behind him. I'm saying there's been somebody behind him for 30 years.
Exactly, I know.
That's just,
But by the way,
he's used to
listen,
getting the ball at his feet. They
that's-
don't want to give.
That's one of the reasons I always stopped playing as well. 'Cause it's
You
'cause
don't want if there's somebody there. You don't want to
No,
give him.
I didn't play football then it's great standard, but I played, you know,
Aye.
decent youth level and all that, and I loved getting the ball at my feet with somebody behind me.
Aye,
That
of
was-
course.
and you can,
But people
you
get
can
taught.
play it
I
off.
think it's at schools and people get taught. Don't give somebody when there's a man on your
Aye,
lap.
and I-
Just
and I like
when you're
that.
professional, give them it.
Give 'em
Totally,
it.
'cause,
Hold
yeah, and always think of that the expression the late great Tommy Burns came out with. It was soft feet as well for
soft
for
feet.
trapping a ball, you know. No. But we could talk all day about this.
know,
It's fantastic.
I know.
But unfortunately,
Anyway,
we've run out of time.
Run out of time.
So a million
Charles, thank
subjects
you.
we never even get round to. But
If you don't mind, we'll get you back on.
get back on, and
Don't
also
mind.
and
Yeah.
and tell you
Double the
what,
money next
I
time.
tell you what,
Right, okay.
and this
2 cakes.
and this book with Graeme Souness probably needs a bit of publicity.
Oh, aye.
Maybe get Graeme in.
Well, once we've got the book finished and I need to get my finger
Next
out
time
of
he's
it,
up. Next time he's up along the road.
up and along the road.
Up along the road for a game. Just tell me.
I'm heading down to his luxury house in
I'm sure the
Sandbanks.
boys will come into the studio before he goes along there. It'd be great to have him for half an hour. So tell him.
Well,
See him.
I'll see what he says
Aye.
when we get the book
In
out.
between swimming and doing a book and all that. I'm
Is
sure
there a
he can
time
fill
when
us in.
it wouldn't be ready for this Christmas? And it's usually the Christmas market you go for.
No. They add. We've agreed a deal. Son will care in what market they put it in. They can
Right.
put it in Paddy's market for all I'm here.
And all the newspapers that we were talking about earlier on will be desperate to get hold of
I
that for
think
serialisation.
these days, Sam. Do you know it's a funny thing? I don't think the cover. The circulation of newspapers now, it's not worth it.
yeah.
They don't have the budget anymore.
Yeah, true.
I don't think it'll begin. It's,
Yeah.
it's Penguin, it's Viking, so it's the biggest publishers in the world.
So it was a big tour, just like Duncan Ferguson's book fairly recently, the media tour.
I
And
think
he'll
you'll
be-
find you'll
They'll not
find
do
there'll
that.
be nights with Graeme Souness and Chet Young available like
Yes,
this,
yes.
and maybe across the river there at the Hydro and things that.
That's-
so
well-
all built into the deal that I mean, not that I'm getting much out of this, Frank. You should
No,
know.
of course.
No, but that's
It's not
fantastic,
about the money.
Well, that is great.
As you and I always
Anyway.
say.
Well, sounds like, I mean, you'll be doing a few interviews. You both, I mean, if you popped in for 10 minutes, I'm sure
Yes,
Frank could
sure we can.
make a nice cup of tea or something.
Before we finish up here, I've just got to give a mention to Tommy Nolan since I never mentioned him
Oh,
in the book.
yeah, so
Tommy,
we better
right,
explain
and-
this. I have one of my best buddies is a multi-zillionaire who is one of the most generous, fantastic
Yeah,
guys in
he's
the
a great
world.
guy.
Amazing bloke.
He
But-
made me at Johnson, but he was the winger. He was the winger. He made me a few goals actually. Me and Ian McLeod used to play up front, and Tommy used to cross.
Or
him.
my other pal, Jeeves Ian McLeod, yeah.
Aye, and it's one of them, and I never mentioned him in the book. I mentioned Ian, but I mentioned Millsy because Millsy, who was the left back, to help me drive my car down to London.
I know Graeme very well.
Millsy, so,
Aye, yep.
so and Tommy just he got a wee jeepney. You never mentioned
So
me.
the background is was Tom and I were over in his
Yacht.
multi-million-pound super yacht last week in Spain cruising out, and we had an excellent day and a very good lunch. And we decided to
FaceTime.
FaceTime Frank. And it was only when, in fact, we videoed it, didn't we? Because the next day when I looked it back, I thought, Jesus, and Tommy was, I think he's speaking to me anymore. So I told Tommy I was doing a lunch with him, and no, he's falling out with you. He's not going to.
No, we didn't see him on Sunday.
Aye, and is he still a multi-millionaire?
He's a great lad. He went to Hong Kong. He went to Hong Kong because I thought he was going to make it. I said, "You're the next one to leave."
You're trying to make up big time.
What's his business?
I did actually think he was going to leave.
What does he do? What's his business?
He went out there and he found out about, what was it, photocopiers. And the rest to say.
It's a lot of money.
So
in
I'm just trying to
photocopiers.
imagine how, when we're doing the advert, when they start sponsoring us.
I think you'll find you're in a queue.
I never thought
If you're looking for sponsors for podcasts,
Yes, exactly. That's a fair point. That's a fair point.
I need to find that.
But anyway, listen, we'll have to leave it there because I'm getting a message to come and pick up my good lady wife as well, who's texting me left, right and centre. So it's an absolute pleasure. Really, really
You're
brilliant.
better sending yourself than me and Frank together.
No, I know, that's a good point, actually. Yeah. Very good point.
Thank you very much, mate.
But this has been an absolute joy, and the two of you as well. So just sitting in your company and listening to all these stories. So we will be joining you again soon. Get in touch and leave messages if there's anyone that you want to see as a guest. Let us know as well, because we don't often ask that question. We've delivered the best in the business.
It's been good.
And
good fun.
we'll keep it going. More coming. So
I've not got the end of my phone book yet, but we're doing all right.
who's right at the end of your Romeo Zondervan or something like that?
Zander.
Anyway, so thanks again for
Yeah.
Right,
So,
okay.
yes,
Right, we're not going down that particular rabbit
Don't
hole.
forget, subscribe.
And hit subscribe and hit follow, and also forget the ball as well with Chick and Phil and Jonathan. And it's a brilliant watch.
Look out for the live shows.
Look out for the live shows as well. So take care. We'll see you again for another episode of Let Me Be Frank.
Take care.